back, everybody, to Throwdown Thursday. My name is Mark Pavlich, away in the Rock, the tall, cool one, TJ Harstein.
Pow, Mark, what's going on? Throwdown Thursday.
What was the pow today? It was a pow thing going on there?
I don't know. We got to I'm trying to find my place.
Your shtick. You're
I'm trying to find.
Well, I think you found your place on our last episode with Stitch Duran.
What a great interview. Fantastic. What a good time that was. Just talking to the guy, man. Like I knew of Stitch forever. Yeah. I was a fan. I was so happy. And it's funny when he was in the Rocky movies and Creed. I was happy to see it because it was cool to see a guy like that in there. But then to talk to him, it's like, oh man, he's also just a really great dude,
Yeah, you could have beers with him and talk and sit around, or wine or beer, whatever you want. You could sit around the fire, and he would get into some stuff that most people would never know.
Yeah, oh, for sure. The stories he has are endless, right? Just completely endless.
We got hockey playoffs right now. Hockey playoffs going on.
2-0. The Leafs are up 2-0.
Oh, the curse, though. I know. I've been calling my dad, 91 years old. I'm like, Dad, you got to focus on the curse, because as people know, my dad was the last person on the ice in 1967 when the Leafs won. The last time they won the cup. I was born in 67, so we have a Pavlich curse on the Leafs. If they get through Ottawa, I'm okay with them getting through Ottawa. I just want them to get beat up a little more. They're not getting beat up enough. So they need to
they'll probably get through Ottawa, I would guess. Yeah.
But the curse is real. 1967, all you scumball Leaf fans out there, I'm the one telling you there's a curse on your Leafs. It's going to stay around for as long as my father's alive. He's 91, healthy as a mother. And
the Leafs aren't winning until,
Yeah.
He's not going to let it happen. Well, I don't care personally.
I know you don't. I know you don't. But you're from that area. You're from that area.
I am. Yeah, listen, if somebody said to me, who's your hockey team? I would say the Toronto Maple Leafs, because that's where I grew up.
That's the dysfunctionality of the mentality of the people out east. It's the same thing with the election coming up. The only way that election gets lost is by the people out east.
Ontario and Quebec, man.
Yeah, they'll kill us.
Come true for us, because this is it's been getting weird. It's
weird.
Yes, it's very weird. Like, how are we even talking about it? I don't understand.
It should be over by now. It's like,
what difference? Like, the thing is, look, they said what, 20 points or something like that. The Conservatives were up. Okay. And
before the shifties got involved. Yeah.
Right.
Not the Swifties, the shifties.
Right. Yeah, and then one guy steps down. Right. And then they do some bogus election.
They appointed him. That's
what I mean. Yeah. This bogus nonsense that none of us Canadians had any say in.
That's right.
And then this guy comes in, and people are like, you know what? He seems good.
Yeah, it's like crazy. It's crazy how in Canada you just shake your head how someone gets appointed, and he's worse than the guy that was there, which is hard to believe.
Certainly not any better. I mean,
that's right.
Nobody else left.
Yeah, nobody.
Whole team's there.
Same one.
It doesn't make any sense.
Same one.
And it's like the whole team, the whole team. So what are we doing? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, his plan is better. It's like, it's not his plan.
What do you mean? That's right.
They would have presented the same plan if it was the guy that you apparently hated.
Yeah.
It's so stupid. It doesn't.
I want to love Toronto, but I never could because of that. I think there's a dysfunctionality in the mentality out there that really scares me. They want the oil money from Alberta all the time, and they want this and they want that. But when it comes time when the chips are down, they're all screaming, elbows up, all that bullshit.
What is that?
And I'm telling you, man, even the great,
that's not even legal.
Yeah. Yes.
So what are we talking about, guys? I thought you guys were law-abiding citizens.
Yeah, I
thought they were against violence.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Now, with that commercial, let's talk about this for one.
Mike Myers?
I didn't think we were going to get into this.
You never know on Throwdown Thursday what happens.
You never know.
Yes, it's crazy.
Let me tell you this.
Yeah.
That commercial was the biggest piece of hot garbage I've ever seen on television in my life.
Yes.
Mike Myers, listen,
Shame on you.
I love Shrek. I love a lot of Mike Myers, like Austin Powers, big fan.
Yeah.
But that was the most dog shit piece of acting I've ever seen in my life.
You said it, man. I'm a listener today. I'm a listener.
Will there always be a Canada?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You don't even live there.
Yeah, the funny one was this one. Tragic. They go tragically, and he goes hip. Like he was trying to do like a if
yeah.
you know Canada, and I'm like, please, man, you don't know Canada. You want me to start? Do you want me to start? Because I can start.
Oh boy,
I can start.
This was funny, Mark. Couldn't they have come up with one reference that's current?
Yes, they could not.
You know why? Because neither of them live in Canada.
That's right.
You couldn't think of one thing that isn't from 20 years ago. Like Carney literally lives in New York. His kids are going to school in New York. Maybe not now. He's probably moving.
Exactly.
In.
Exactly.
Moving truck.
Hey, bro. You know what? I know on Throwdown Thursday we never have guests.
That's true.
But I got a friend of mine that wants to call in to talk to us.
Well, I think we should do that.
And he has some stuff he wants to get off his chest, and he's kind of a famous guy, so I think we should let him in.
I think we should.
We'll be back in a second, everybody. Welcome back, everybody, to the Bust Lip Podcast. With myself, of course, Mark Pavlich, across on the rock, TJ Harstein, and everybody, our special guests. We never have guests on a Thursday. Never, ever, ever. But this is special because we have the talent, Alan Belcher, all the way from Biloxi, Mississippi. Look at that beard, man. One of the greats.
I brought it.
You brought it. Listen, the reason why you're here today, Alan, is because we want to shed some light on this whole debacle.
Yeah, let's do it.
That has took place with the GFL, and I know a lot about these people and whatever they've done and blah blah blah. But I want to know your experience, and just doing it on Instagram stories and things like that. It's not enough. We need to hear it from you.
Okay, for sure, brother. Yeah, so I'll just give you my whole experience with the whole thing. It was brought to me back in it's got to be probably last fall. Last fall is when we first started talking about it. But my manager brought it to me, and he was like, "Hey, there's this new team thing, this new GFL deal, and they're signing everyone." And so this is what they're offering. I'm working on this or whatever, and got the terms and everything that we wanted for the contract. And of course, right from the get go, there was a lot. There were some industry insiders that was like, this is not going to happen. I know this guy, whatever, this type of thing. And then what really shifted, and I think really gave the fighters and the managers a false sense of security is when that $20 million screenshot started floating around. And you could probably Google it and look it up or whatever, but there's a screenshot that was being used just to make people feel secure, and whether or not I'm just speculating whether or not it's real or not. But you got to assume that there's something kind of fishy going on. So when it comes time to do the first show, there's no money. It's like, where did the $20 million that was in the bank account that you showed go? They said that the investor put the money in and they took it back out. That doesn't sound right. Yeah. That sounds kind of fishy, Yeah. But yeah, man, it's just, I guess it was about a week or two ago now, since this all kind of came down. Feels like it's been about 2 weeks. And so a lot of people are had some expectations, and there's a bit of a false economy built, because of it. Yeah. The value is kind of like, what's going on? PFL hasn't had a fight in a while. There's all kinds of shows shutting down. Investors are pulling the money, and it's like it's hard to tell what the value of a fighter is outside of the UFC. What does that mean now? Yeah. What's the whole thing? Because it seemed like for since the recovery of live fights from COVID. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Once we got back into having live shows again, economically for our industry has just been booming. You had the Jake Paul MVP,
that's right. Yeah.
All the crossover stuff, the bare knuckle, and all the other kind of weird fights. Social media has just went nuts with just boxing and MMA content and all kinds of weird, bare knuckle and Russian fights, and it's just like everything is blown up. Money was getting invested all over. You saw Game Bread come out. They They had investments from Saudi Arabia. They got into a little pocket. Several promoters started getting money from Saudi Arabia, and so now we're just kind of, I think we're getting a kind of like backlash from that.
Yeah.
Almost like a negative bounce. Yeah, exactly. And this whole thing just makes it
Alan,
kind of weird.
in your opinion, is the MMA world dumb? Is it dumb? Yeah, because that's my question. Because you have to understand, like, I'm not talking like a normal announcer guy or like a podcast guy, and I didn't want to talk about this bullshit for 1 second, but TJ was like obsessed with talking about it. Then I you know how much I respect and love you, so I know what happened to you guys. But with all my being, I try not to say anything about this brand because it's not a brand. Okay, everybody, it's Fire Island. Okay, it's the exact same thing.
Firefest.
Yeah, it's Firefest. Remember, it's the same kind of guy.
Who's also doing another show, by the way, which is crazy. But
yeah, that guy is right. So, but what I'm saying is these are people that they're not creators, they're not builders, they're not people that build things, and I know the people that are. The people in this world that have done that in the MMA world. And when I saw this individual coming out doing this, I couldn't believe it. Like the signings, I saw him sign you, and then I saw him sign like 10 other people that he shouldn't even have their names come out of his mouth. And then on accident, his Instagram came across my page. And then you know what he did? He did the Fyre thing. He went and took pictures with everybody, the reputable people, Javier Mendez, all these other really reputable people, and started putting them on his Instagram. And I said, oh no, it's going to happen because the mathematics will never work out. Even if your friend, listen, I had that happen here where I live. Guy won the lottery and 2 other idiots convinced him to put on MMA shows. And then they tried to mess with my organization and I took them all to court. And the funny part is like when we showed up to court, they wanted to shake our hands and do pictures with us. You know what I mean? And I looked at these guys like, are you joking? But this is not a business for those people. And I'm using the term those people because those are those people that think it's like easy and sexy and, oh, this is great. And, ring card girls and all this other bullshit. But it's not. See, because what happens now is people like you that take this shit serious and people like the other fighters that take this shit serious, it costs money to take this shit serious. Mm-hmm. And it costs you money to take this shit serious. And this guy, what he does is he probably skims some money off the top of this money that was coming in so that he can have some kind of compensation for doing zero. And this is what happens in this world. And you know who to blame is not just this idiot, okay? Not this idiot. It's the commissions because they should see proof of funds. They should see. So I'm blaming the California commissions, the Vegas commission. If you don't have proof of funds, you should be able to check proof of funds, not for one day and then you take it out in some bullshit checks running around or whatever the case may be. But it breaks my heart. The only person that breaks my heart is for the fighters that actually were getting ready for this debacle. Mm-hmm. And then this happens and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, if I say it earlier, people go, oh, I'm a hater. I'm like, I'm not a hater. I'm a realist. And I know when I can smell bullshit a mile away. That's the beauty about being on your own when you're a kid. You can smell it from a mile away.
Yeah. You're right, man. Yeah. A lot of people really lost out and it's kind of, it's embarrassing on one hand, but, it's like, what do you do? I think it's just a lesson. It's a lesson learned for everyone, man. But yeah,
we've seen it though. We've seen it a lot though. It's not a less because we've seen it a lot. So in fact, I don't know who anybody's manager is, but when these new shows come out, you should ask for a deposit. I want a deposit for my athlete, Alan Belcher. So if I'm paying him $50,000 to fight, it shouldn't be much for you to send me $10,000 up front. Western Union that shit to me. And then I'll sign a contract. Then you can use my image on your promotional stuff. But I need to see $10,000 first. So if you get hit by a bus, I still get my $10,000.
Sure.
And it's hard also at the same time to not take opportunities that are presented, right? Like everybody's out there trying to make the living. Everybody's out there trying to do the best they can, try to compete with the best people. And when you see GFL come out and sign all of these guys that are very competitive, that have been at the top of their game for a long time, it does make you feel like, okay, well, this has to be something, because there's a lot of people involved in this that have been in the world of mixed martial arts for a long time at the highest level. So it can't be completely FUBAR. And then for that to happen, but at the same time, were you guys being contacted kind of throughout, giving a little updates like, hey, this is kind of where we're at? Are we, we might be pushing back, sort of that kind of thing? Or was it just,
well, it was pushed back. It was pushed back once or twice. It was pushed back. And the whole the ending of like how it all went down was because of California asking for the money to be escrow, and that had been going on for a couple of months.
There you go. Yeah.
And my manager was kind of hinting around to it, kind of like, hey, they're wanting to see the money in escrow, and he says that he can, but there's a issue there, and I'm like, this doesn't sound real good. But I kept training. And, doing the whole thing, I mean, and from my own perspective, I'm not getting really bent out of shape about it.
Sure.
I got over it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing that I can do to control it.
No.
I've put in the time, I've put in the money, and I could really have a really bad attitude about it, because this is expensive. And also I don't have years and years and years left. I'm at the end of my career, and I'm like, all right, do a couple big paydays with them here, maybe go on a run, win a belt or something, and have a retirement fight and be done. So I have a biological clock that's ticking here. So I'm just ready to get back in there and keep this thing going, because I'm at that last little window. I can't afford to take off anymore, and so I still want to do it while
why aren't you now transferring back to MMA, like to say actual PFL, because PFL is still going. And
PFL hasn't had a card in them for a while, have they?
No, they have with Ray Sefo, right? So they just had one, right? And it's like they're doing a tournament, and it's like Ray understands people like you, like your talent, and Ray's been on our show before, and they're still going full bore. And they got a budget, and they're real, and they have a TV deal, and they have those type of things that you actually have to suffice paying fighters.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I know my manager. I'm with Vayner Sports now.
Yeah. Oh,
and
good.
I really like Lloyd, and so he does a good job. We're talking about some boxing stuff.
Good.
I have a deal with MAMS at Misfits to do more boxing there. So there is boxing on the horizons. I'm probably going to do pro grappling it with Fury, but I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to PFL.
Yeah.
I only know what I know, but I mean, I've heard that there are a lot of people struggling with money and things right now. It's hard to compete with the UFC.
It is. And we really see now, this is about the time in the world where we really, really see the absolute monopoly of the UFC, about how everything is kind of monopolized. And it hey, good listen, I'm not opposed to it, because if I was in the same position, I would be, flying in my private jet as well. So I can never dog anybody for working their ass off and making something great. I can't.
Sure.
Yeah. I had the lawyers call me back in the day wanting me to testify against the UFC for being a monopoly. And I started laughing at them. I said, you know how hypocritical that would be? Because if I could be in the same position of them tomorrow, I would be.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, right? Like,
for sure.
Yeah. Why are you going to bullshit people? Like,
well, that I'm part of the UFC class action lawsuit.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we get paid this year. And, it just is what it is. The UFC wants the guys to get paid, and that way there's no other issue with it. It's like, it's the same thing as like,
will you get a chunk of money?
What's that?
You'll get a chunk of money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's deserved, right? But would you say then, to kind of put it to bed, are you sort of just looking for other opportunities now? Like most of the other guys are just, let that be as it is. This whole June card that they're trying to put on. Do you feel like that's even any chance of that happening? For me, it looks like a pond. It looks like a pump and dump to me. It doesn't look like anything's going to happen when I look at it. But how do you feel about it? Have you been contacted any further, or is it just like?
Yeah. I mean, I talked to Darren. He called me personally.
Okay.
And I think he was trying to call everyone and salvage relationship and salvage maybe what could possibly happen, but he's going to have to get he's going to have to get people on board to take a risk. Like he asked me to fight for equity and rev share
Of what?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And at that might, in a different scenario,
I don't know what,
a different scenario, that might be a good idea, but in this case, it's like then you got to put your neck out there.
Yeah, if Dana White calls you and says, "Hey, Alan, I want you to fight for equity and shares," you say, "Where do I sign?"
Yes, sir.
When this buffoon calls, you just say, "Listen, bro, like stop calling," because it's insanity. It's literally insanity. You have to understand his psychological makeup is very different. I know him from years and years and years ago, and it's for me to give him any more validity would just be beneath me. And because I know who this person is, and I just I can't even believe he got this far and people bought it.
Yeah,
almost pulled off the first one. I mean, I think the intention was to get it going.
Yeah,
and it's just it was just a heck of a feat. What? One of the things that I think of when I'm looking at, like, just analyzing what this guy was doing and where he went wrong and everything. It's like you see people try to take a shortcut, and that was the kind of thing he tried to take over all in one swoop.
Yeah,
and it's it's an ambitious goal.
Sure, yeah, it's not possible.
But it's like, let me sign everyone, and then boom, get right off the bat. It's a totally different ballgame, and that's what you're doing. It's not just ambitious; it's in a way lazy.
Yeah,
because you're cheating. You're not putting in the work.
Well, what you said at the beginning, Alan,
or a 10-year plan.
Yeah, what you said in the beginning though is about building. That's what you have to do. You have to build it first.
Yeah.
And then you have to have a TV deal in place first. Right. You have to have and this whole thought of investors come after you did 10 shows and they go, "Oh, you got some validity here. You got some stuff happening here, right?" I did 50 shows in MMA, 50. And I got all that near the end. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got the multiple TV deals and corporate sponsors and all those people involved the last 20 shows. The first 30 shows was the grind. The last 20 shows is we bank some money. But but that's what I'm trying to tell you. You can't. This is the MMA world. You can't. I see every idiot that wins the lottery, and then some guy convinces them, "Hey, bro, you get in this MMA world? Really cool, man. Ring car girls, it's shiny, and then they lose their money and they go, "What happened? What do you mean I didn't make $1 million off this?" No, you did not. As you know, putting on shows, it's different. You have to have the love for the actual sport first, and then you have to build your brand. You can't get to the end before you do all these steps in between.
And you're probably not going to make very much money in the first few shows anyway.
Yeah, totally.
Like, that's just how a business works.
Yeah, like any other business, right?
At the end of the day, you're just trying to make it break even at the best, and then hopefully you can start building and gonna go from there. Well, listen, I want to switch gears for 2 seconds because while we have you, I got to ask you this question because we had Adrian Perez on our podcast a few weeks ago, who's a great boxing trainer, and he had worked a card or worked a corner for somebody for a bare knuckle fight, and he was saying to us, why is it that you think that MMA fighters are finding more success in bare knuckle than boxers? Because he said, man, these we've seen a lot of boxers go in, and you think because it's boxing, right, in a sense, without gloves. I mean, obviously you can grapple a little bit, but why is it that MMA guys are beating the shit out of these boxing guys? It doesn't make any sense. So I feel like there's not a single person on this planet better than you to ask that question because I didn't really have an answer.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's tends to be my specialty, especially for several years there when I was really just diving deep into the bare knuckle. But yeah, I mean, there's several different reasons, but one is see, I'm in a situation where I understand boxing and I understand the culture and the MMA culture, and I did the same thing with traditional martial arts too. I came up in traditional martial arts,
Okay.
and then I had a kind of a crossover there. So I feel like my specialty is like bringing these things together and seeing the differences of them. But in the boxing culture, boxers do not like to get hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is kind of usually kind of like a common fact that people know, and that alone is a reason is one of the big reasons, and that's the reason why an MMA fighter can't beat a boxer, is because an MMA fighter accepts getting hit a little bit, and a boxer won't accept getting
That's right.
hit.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
you can't beat someone in a boxing match that doesn't get hit.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it's very hard. It's very hard. So
Yeah,
that's why they can't really figure out the difference. And it's like, well, because they're always in position, they're way ahead of you.
So
they're
true.
very careful because they don't want to get hit, and that's why they outbox you.
Right.
Okay, and then so when you go into bare knuckle, it's very difficult not to get hit a little bit.
Right.
And when you know, and when you do get hit, it doesn't feel like a boxing glove. It feels like danger. It feels like a lot of danger. So the MMA fighter is a little more used to getting hit with the smaller, more compact fist,
Right.
and dealing with the amount of space in between the hands and everything.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have the boxing glove and stuff. So. It's kind of like an attitude thing. Not every MMA fighter would do well with it, but you can see the guys that from MMA that have done well with it are not necessarily the best MMA fighters either.
Yeah.
They're kind of brawlers, and they'll get beat by the more refined technical guys.
Yeah.
We had Camozzi on the show, right? And I love Chris, but he's champ right now. He's fighting in Florence, Italy this weekend, and he's the champ. And it's like he was a good MMA fighter. He wasn't a great MMA fighter, but it seems like he's crossed over to the bare knuckle, and it's like he found himself there. Like that's his place.
Yeah. It's cool. I think to be a bare knuckle fighter, you have to be good.
Yeah.
You have to be good, and you have to be technical, but you also have to have that grit and that that
composure under fire, in a sense, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have to have that aggressiveness is really. I was able to really do what I did in bare knuckle without being very aggressive, which was different than what I've seen other people do. But I was just like, hey, man, I don't want to take a whole lot more concussions. I want to try not to get hit. I know I'm doing bare knuckle, but I'm going to try not to get hit.
Yeah.
And so I took a bit of a passive approach, and then it would just work out.
Yeah, more tactical.
Because when you knock somebody out, it's violent and brutal anyway.
Yeah.
So
the shell's different too, right? The shell's different, like than boxing, right? It's way different.
It is, it is, and I learned a lot from like getting into that, and what it helped me was now like looking at MMA and working with MMA fighters. I realized so much different things, but the idea of kind of like. When you first started like crossing over from like looking at how karate didn't work and now you should do this like boxing and Muay Thai, you almost kind of see the idea of like blocking things before they get to you.
Interesting,
right?
So that's what I'll teach that a lot in MMA now is like, stop the punches and stay on the outside before they get to you.
Yes.
Don't let it come to you and then try to block. There's always a way that it gets in there, So
Hey, from an old school Jeet Kune Do guy, there was a guy that came up with that a long time ago. His name is Bruce Lee.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, same idea. Definitely the same idea. And you look at the older styles of boxing too, and the gloves are smaller. The gloves are smaller, and then you go to the old bare knuckle stuff. It's a lot of the same kind of framing and blocking out here, and
you see the arms more extended when and you look at the older style of boxing. That weird stance the guys used to have, their arms were extended so they could jam up punches further away, as opposed to waiting until they're kind of taking them on the gloves. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, exactly.
Very
we,
cool.
We want to thank you, Alan, just to come on like this, because we usually never, ever have a guest on Thursday. But when the great Alan Belcher wants to chime in, we let him.
I appreciate it, man. Very much so.
Heck yeah, man. All right, guys. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Alan. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much, man. Take care.
Alan Belcher.
There you go. Alan
Belcher.
Belcher.
Usually we don't, like you said, we don't have a guest on Thursdays, but I saw my phone and he saw us on and he's like, hey, I got something to say. I was like, well,
I just think that with what was going on, you and I have talked about it a lot over the last couple of weeks. And the reason that I became a little bit obsessed with it was because I was so frustrated by the kind of the fugazi stuff that was going on. Because I can
you used two terms tonight, fugazi and what was that? Fubar. Yeah, and I'm like, wow, this is old school for you people. Yeah,
that bugs me because I know that the fighters like Alan Belcher, like Luke Rockhold, Tyron Woodley, all these guys, right?
Yeah.
And they are professionals.
Yeah,
they stay in shape, they train very hard.
Yeah,
and when you're talking about a fight that you're going to put on, you're not asking guys to go in and sell something for you. You're not asking guys to go in and pump a stock up or something like that. No. You're asking them to risk their health and well-being.
Yeah.
But that doesn't start at the fight. That starts during their training.
Correct.
So you're already asking them to go in there and put that sweat equity in, the blood equity in, and they're going to get people that are going to support them. So they're going to want to travel to LA and all this sort of stuff. You're creating all that, like you said, this kind of like false economy around it. And then to pull the rug, I just thought, like, you got to be like, this isn't right, man. And
this is the insane part. This is the part that people are not paying attention to, which unfortunately I know about. Mm-hmm. To think that he's calling him back and trying to convince him to fight. You understand? Listen how bizarre this is. This is borderline sociopath. Okay.
Yeah, well, let me tell you this, bro, and without question, this guy's tried to pass it off to all these other people. My investor for April.
Yeah.
First of all, you're telling me that you're the president. You're supposed to figure all this stuff out. You're the president. You run the company. Investors, if you have any idea,
you made yourself. You made yourself right. That. Yeah.
Investors do not run the company.
Yeah.
Investors supply the funds that are supposed to run the company. That are supposed to supply.
That's right.
The actual tools. But you, the president, are the one that organizes those tools and puts them together to make something work. That's your job. So it's not your investor's problem. It's your problem.
Well, no, and what's happened now is it's not even his problem anymore. It's the problem of all the people that he artificially signed.
Well, it's the fighter. Now it's the fighter's problem. But I mean,
correct.
I want to see. Show us that you didn't take a salary over these last few months.
Oh no, impossible.
Show us.
No.
Show us that
won't happen.
Paid from this.
That won't happen.
No, of course not. Because I know that when the president of a company gets hired as the president, he's not doing it for free. So you found. I
don't know for sure what happened, TJ, but I know for sure that he was at some place one day and met people with money and convinced them of this debauchery that he created. And he decided that he was going to convince these people that the best way to invest your money is to go in the MMA world. And then he said, I'm going to need $20 million. And the guy's like, okay. But there was probably no one with $20 million. You understand that, right?
This whole thing about deposit and taking out and all that stuff, again, none of it matters. And look, he might have had intentions to make this work and be great. Sure. That's possible. But it's irresponsible.
Track record does not. No. Track record does not state what you just said.
No.
His track record does not state that maybe he had an intention to make something great, but he doesn't have it in his DNA.
No, well, obviously not.
He does not.
For you to be able to drag a bunch of people along with your dream that it was never going to happen. Now, as a businessman yourself, I know in the business that I've been in myself, that when something isn't going to work a long time before it happens.
Sure.
Before you have to say, we got to pull the plug. Mark and TJ would have sat down and said, listen, we're not going to get there.
No, this is the difference, though. This is the difference.
It's insane, man.
This is the difference. When I owned this little organization called the MFC for 16 years, I was making money after the first, second, third, fourth show. Not a lot of money, but we were making money.
Some money, yeah.
As time went on, I decided, okay, you know what? to bring this to other places. So there was never MMA in the history of MMA in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I got it sanctioned first here. So every show that came after, I've never received one Christmas card, but I got it legalized. Then I got it legalized in Calgary. So I went to put on a show in Calgary, and everybody who was anybody in Calgary that was not in the MMA world, but was in some form of combative sports world, they tried to stop the show from happening. But I got it legally sanctioned, so they couldn't stop it. But then they were convincing people that, it's going to be violent. You need more security. So they had to double security costs. Then we had to double this cost, and we had to double this cost. And when it was all said and done, on June 1st at the Max Bell Arena, I knew I was going to lose a lot of money. And I knew before going in I was going to lose a lot of money. And you know what the crazy part was? I could have stopped. TJ, I could have said, no, I'm pulling the card. I'm canceling the show. I didn't. I put the show on because I thought it was more important at that time in the MMA makeup, not to be dishonest, not to be, shifty, that I was going to eat the money. And as I was driving home, I was in, I don't know how to explain it to you. Thank God I married the right person, because she convinced me that I was greater than I was. And because I was like, I cannot believe I just lost that much money. And literally, you would think, I'm going to stop. And no, instead, we doubled down, getting more corporate sponsors, getting TV deals, getting all these type of things to make the organization bigger, to bring more money.
The holes, right? So that's what Alan talked about.
To bring money in, to bring money into the organization, not to spend, to bring into the organization.
Right.
And that's what we did. So I'm talking from a place of, and this individual used to run his mouth about us. I've never even met him before. I have no idea who he is. I don't know him. I've never met him.
That's who you're talking about.
Yeah. This person. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And he would say whatever he wanted to say about us, which that was his business to say whatever he wants to say. I don't know him to even talk about him. I just know that this is not a surprise. And most people in the know that this is not a surprise what happened.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and again, as Alan said, there's no shortcut to being a great promoter, to being great at anything. But to think you can just hire bring in I'll sign all these guys. Now, if a guy that was legit, listen, if you, Mark Pavelich, decided I'm going to do a card and you started signing people like that, I don't think anybody would have said this isn't going to happen.
Correct.
They would have said, wow,
100%.
This is a lot. Yeah. But I mean, if Mark's behind it, I'm sure it'll be okay, right?
Yeah.
Now, I also know that if you did it, you wouldn't have committed to doing something that you knew wouldn't work, because you would know because you did it. But for somebody that doesn't have the track record to be able to say, I've done this many cards, I've done this, I've had this much.
TJ, did you not open a business in the beautiful city of White Rock?
Yes.
Okay. And when you open that business, how many people were in your business thought that they can do exactly what you could do, just like that? And what did they all do? They all went off and tried to do their own thing and think, we're going to make tons of money because we know more than they do. And what happened?
Yeah, they're all gone.
Nothing's happened. They're in never. They might have stuff, but they're not making money.
No,
and they have the impression of like, look at. I have a building here, and there's like one person walks in every day, and
I know it's usually a house, not even a building. There's
exactly. But that's my point. My point is that the people that are successful, the people that are pioneers, the people that go out there and build things, build. What you guys did, you build, and people don't understand that word. If you go to university tomorrow, you won't hear that word. That's what they should teach you in day one. If you're in business school in the world, and I've been approached by multiple places to speak at business schools, and the first thing I would tell everybody, and you would see the disappointment go through their face immediately when they look at you, and I tell them, you have to build, and you have to build, and you have to build. And when you're in the middle of the night and you wake up in cold sweats, and you go at 3:27 a.m. and you go, oh my God, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get this? How am I going to get that? And that's what people don't understand. They don't understand that process. And that is the process. I don't care if it's MMA world or business world in general. That's how it is. There's no way of getting to there if you don't do this. And And you can maybe give me the one example of a human being that you've met that've done that, but I can show you.
I don't think there is one, though.
No, but I can show you 10,000 that had to do this.
Right. And there's always some form of building. I mean, you look at it's the easiest analogy to make. You look at a house, first you have an empty lot and there's nothing there.
Correct.
And you have to dig a hole. And like this is the thing. When you think about it as a business, you start a business. First, that empty lot, that's the idea, right?
Sure.
Now, when you dig the hole, that's you putting it on paper. But there's nothing, it's not giving you anything back yet. So you're working, and when you putting it on paper is actually a lot of hard work. You got to take all your ideas and you got to push them through and you got to write them down. You got to type it out, whatever the case is. You got to make it look nice, all that kind of stuff. You got to organize your idea, organize your thoughts. You're not getting paid yet, by the way. There's no pay coming in.
When I saw the signings of this organization, and I knew listen, I didn't take pictures with none of these guys, but I know every one of them. And 3/4 of them, their cell phone number is in my phone.
Right.
So I felt horrendous because I knew this was going to happen. My son texted me 4 weeks before the card went on, and he said, "Dad, this is never going to happen." And I'm like, you know, we can't say that all the time because we look like
right, and you look like haters. It's like, it's just because you're not in it anymore and you're jealous and all this shit. And it's like, no, it's because I know how it works,
bro.
Like,
only time I talk about MMA is with you or on the show. Right. Outside of that, I never talk about it at all unless people want to bring it up with me or people bump into me and they ask me something, and then I'm like, okay, I'm not going to be a dick. So I do that. But the people that knew this wasn't going to happen. And when a guy like this takes pictures with all these reputable people, that's what they do. They put it on their social media platforms and think, oh, that's going to bring me respectability. Well, that's what happened.
Yeah. And that's what, again, you know, when I looked at it, it looked like a pump and dump for me in a different way. You know, obviously it's different because you're dealing with physical people and product and all that kind of stuff. But
sure.
When I see a guy who's the president of something going around telling everybody he's going to do all this stuff that's never been done, he's got all these 10 weight classes with 2 fighters per team, and each weight class is different. Now you got the light heavyweights 225 and the middleweights 200 because we don't want guys cutting weight. It's all about their health, and we're going to give them revenue share, and we're going to give them a guaranteed purse. We're going to give them a retirement plan. It's like, wow, that's so nice of you to do theoretically. But let's actually talk to experts in the world and think, is this possible? Like, Mark, is 50% revenue share possible?
No.
Of course it isn't.
No.
It's not even possible in other businesses. Like, what are you talking about? 50% revenue share. Now, you want to talk about 50% revenue share in places like the NFL and MLB and big things like that. Now you're talking about things that have been around for centuries.
And not to mention now their television deals
of
are
course,
worth billions. They're billions now.
You're in a different, you're trying to, what he was trying to do is say the UFC doesn't do this, but I'm going to do it. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, the UFC doesn't do it because they wouldn't exist if they did.
Correct.
Now they're here. Maybe at some point down the road, they'll be a little closer to the same revenue share as other big sports organizations. I think Dana White probably wants to.
Listen, Dana's not just smart. Okay. He has a lot of smart, he is smart in the MMA world, but there's a lot of smart people around him,
of course,
too, as well. So I'm sure if he's sitting there, and he's not, I don't think he's like that either. Like the multiple times we have spoke, I don't think that he's the kind of guy that goes, like, he doesn't know the answer to something. He's going to ask someone around him that he trusts to have the answer. See, you have to have another bit of intelligence to actually have the courage to admit in front of a room full of people, I don't know the answer to that, but maybe TJ does. Right, and he's going to give me the answer.
Here.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's why, which is smart. You have to do
that. You have to be smart to do that. Yes.
Yeah. One person can't have all the answers. But again, looking at that, seeing the guys they're bringing in, like, again, they're bringing in like Tony Ferguson, who probably shouldn't be fighting anymore. You know,
I love
Tony Ferguson, but I don't think he should be fighting.
No.
Chris Weidman coming back. You got all these guys who are coming back that Frank Mir.
Listen, Luke Rockhold shouldn't fight anymore.
No, like a lot, whatever. I mean, Luke Rockhold's maybe on the cusp. He's still very healthy and all that stuff. But I mean, but he's been, he's gone through some stuff. But he's one of the guys that I was like, okay, I wouldn't mind to see him fight again. Yeah. But like Frank Mir, I mean, come on. And you know what? Bringing all these guys back.
Love Frank, but you're right. Yeah. He's busted up.
But he's been busted up too much. That boxing fight he had in Triller was just awful to watch.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, this is the kind of thing that just, for me, it really pisses me off, because when you're bringing in guys that I think are looking for opportunities to continue doing what they love to do and also make a little bit of money. Now,
Sure.
you know that Frank Mir, Luke Rockhold, Tyron Woodley, they're not getting off the couch without a certain amount of money.
Of course.
So I would imagine that the fight purses were very big and they were very attractive.
Yes.
And then they probably had that $20 million screenshot that everybody else got and thought, okay, well, look, this guy's going to give me $400K to fight plus a revenue share. Why wouldn't I do it? I'm just going to, I'm a fighter. I might as well do it. Right.
Yeah.
But then they go in, they start investing, paying coaches, going and doing all the things that need to do, get prepared for a fight. And at the same time, this guy's running around doing interviews with Ariel Helwani, looking like an idiot, doesn't have answers to any of the questions, saying that he's keeping everything close to the chest. The guy looks so nervous because he knows.
And Ariel is very intelligent. So I don't know why he would give him the platform, but you did say something before we went on air when you said, well, yeah, Mark, it's the bait and switch, right? Like he showed all these people that he signed. Right. So Ariel goes, this could be something interesting. So of course he puts him on his show.
Yeah, you got to talk to him.
You got to talk to him, right?
Yeah.
So I don't. Of course, I don't blame Ariel for doing it because he sees like, oh, this could be the shining light that MMA wants. But if you know the guy's history, you know that's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, and look, it didn't happen. It is not going to happen. The June fight is not going to happen. He's not going to get the money to put in escrow for the commission. Obviously, the guys and I didn't know that until you told me that that's a thing that you have to do, which I'm glad is a thing.
You have to check funds, TJ.
Regulated, yeah,
and you know, up to a certain time, you have to have the payroll in for the fighters. Yeah. So there's a time frame. I'm not going to say what it is now because when I was around, it was a different time. But we had to have the payroll in either cash or money orders,
right?
To the commission, and they had that money way in advance, so that they knew that you had the payroll to pay the actual fighters.
Can't have guys go out there and risk their life, literally risk their life for maybe getting paid.
Yes.
No. You got to have that. Shit
but why not fighters, please, and managers? Like, if you want to be a real manager in the future, if new organizations come and they're going to give you the story about we're a new organization,
for guys at that level at least.
But if anybody's talking the way they're talking like that, you need to get a deposit. You need to get a deposit before they use your image on any form of advertising.
Yeah, well, because I mean, look at the posters, right? It was every guy they had and huge, like all the different things. Like, anyways, ridiculous. I'm glad we had Alan on, though. It's I wish him all the best.
Let him put the light. He was one of the first guys signed, so and he's a great guest of the Busted Lip podcast, and so when he wants to chime in, we let him.
100%. And I
from the bayou. The bayou.
Yeah, 100%. I've been a fan of his for a long time, and I'm happy.
How can't you be? How can't you be?
Yeah.
Do you know that he has a men's group for mental health with about 200-300 members of people that you can call in, and you can not call in, but you can get in and you can
incredible
mix with other guys.
More of that is necessary. We talk about it all the time. More of that is necessary. But on a different topic, I've been looking at the Major League Baseball season up to.
We're still up there. We're still.
Yeah.
You guys are 50-50 now.
Yeah, we're at 500. I know. Yeah. So whatever, it is what it is. That's what's bugging me a little bit, and I hate to try and jump on this stuff too early, but. Sure. Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who I really like, and I'm very excited for him. The signing was massive.
Yeah.
But the production hasn't been there since
that happens
a couple years ago.
Yeah, that happens.
He had his 48 home run season.
Yep.
Massive for such a young guy too.
Crazy.
And then 30, 32 home runs, 30 home runs, 18 home runs. Now he's got one home run, and we're 24 games in or something like that.
Yeah, he should have more.
I'm just saying, this happens.
500 million does that to you, bro. You said earlier too about the silk sheets. It's the same mentality. It's like you got $500 million, man. You get
just a distraction as well. Like having that
Big
kind
one.
of money. See, now I'm not saying that he's not going to produce. I think he's going to produce.
Yeah.
But I think that there's going to be this bit of a lull in the production.
I agree.
Until he gets used to being the $500 million man.
Yeah.
And now his dad was obviously very wealthy and did very well in the sport as well. So it's not like he grew up without silk sheets.
Correct.
So obviously it's a bit of a different scenario.
Yeah, he wasn't slumming it. Right?
No. He grew up on the baseball diamond in the biggest diamonds in the world. But
correct.
But I do think that having that kind of signing does make it a lot more difficult for guys to.
Oh.
You can look at the history of this.
I agree.
A lot of times, millions and millions comes in, the production dips for a bit.
Yeah.
Because it is just a bit of a distraction. And, I've never been signed for $500 million before, so I can't speak from experience. But just going by what's happened in the past.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Other guys that have gone through that too.
It's a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've seen it. Not to slate Vladdy at all.
No,
but,
I love
but
Vladdy.
he's not the only one. We've seen it happen with a lot of people. So
for sure.
we've seen it in hockey. We've seen it. Hey, we're watching it in golf. Come on, man. Koepka doesn't even make the cut at the Masters.
Yeah.
Why? Because he's got a $200 million deal with Liv. So what does he care? Like, I'm telling you, I know you want to care. I know.
Well, what's John Rahm done since he's signed with Liv too? You know, and John Rahm he won the Masters 2 years ago.
2 years ago. Yeah.
So, and in the next
these guys are having a hard time making the cut, TJ. And you got to say to yourself, the only one that still kind of looks like he's got the drive is Bryson DeChambeau.
Yeah, Bryce is a different animal, though.
He's a different animal. Yeah. And when you look at that and you say, it's funny, when Rory was talking the other day, there's a kid from his hometown where he's from in Ireland, and Hollywood. It's called Hollywood, Ireland.
I know,
and this kid now is going to try to make it on the PGA Tour. He's been playing on the DP Tour, and Liv calls him up and says, "Oh, we're going to give you $20 million, to the kid to start." And Rory tells the kid, "Hey, take the long way home on this one. Trust me." And the kid's kind of, we're going to see if the kid's going to sign with Liv. I'm not telling the kid to do whatever he does. Do whatever you want. But what I'm trying to tell you is, if there's not a prime example of you've lost that loving feeling, Koepka is the number one poster child for that. Yeah. This guy was the king of majors, meaning like he was always competitive in majors. He's got, you can go check right now. Skip doesn't work usually on Thursdays, but you can check how many majors he's got. He's literally got like 4 or 5 majors.
4 majors, yeah.
And he's so competitive in majors, and now he's not even making the cut at the Masters. He's not hurt. He's got $200 million in the bank, bro.
Yeah, and I think the problem is too. Again, we're talking about shortcuts, man. Yeah. This kid that's going to get $20 million from Liv. Now look, that is again, and Rory.
And he's a kid. He's a kid.
Rory's not. He's not stupid. Obviously, he knows.
Yeah.
Turning down $20 million when you haven't made any yet is
and you're a kid.
Very, very difficult.
Correct.
Now, if somebody came up to Rory when Rory was that age and offered it too, I don't know that
Hard
Rory
to tell.
would have turned it down,
Hard
right?
to tell.
You never know. But Rory's Rory now. I mean, he's got all his majors. He's got everything. He's got the Grand Slam. Blah blah blah.
He's got tons of dough.
Yeah. So that's different. Now, I'm not faulting Rory for saying that. I think Rory's right in a way.
Sure.
But there's no guarantee of funds in golf.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? The difference though about Liv is they get that money up front. So this kid, you have to think, this kid's playing on the DP Tour, staying in shithole hotels, is now decided that, I'm going to sign with Liv. I'm going to get my $20 million US into my Ireland bank account.
Guaranteed money.
It is.
And that's the thing, right? When you're getting guaranteed money, it changes the game, because in golf, you don't get a guarantee, man. You don't make the cut, you make nothing. And if you don't make, top 10, top 12, it's tough to really make a living. I mean, you make a living, but it's not like you're making the money that those guys are making.
Look at Phil. Look at Phil. Phil made all that money, and he's past his prime, which he knows.
Yes.
And literally, he's the smartest one of everybody, because you think he wants to play in the John Deere Classic or the whatever, the Zurich, whatever. He doesn't want to play none of that shit. So he's the one that got paid, and he can still play in majors. So he doesn't care. And he's older now. So he's the one that made out like everybody. Koepka's the one that I shake my head at going, bro, you're not even making the cut at the Masters. Come on, man. Let's go.
The pressure of trying to make the cut. Yeah. It's the pressure of trying to get some money when you're coming up in golf that makes you improve your game exponentially. Whereas when you have the $20 million, if you take a day off, it's not that big of a deal. But if you take the day off when you're trying to move up in the ranks and trying to make that money and get ranked and get some, some cushion for yourself, it's that stress.
Did you see, bro? They were showing that on the Golf Channel. They showed the players, and they were showing who was practicing after the round was over. Yeah, and they're showing Scotty Scheffler out there. They're showing Bryson DeChambeau. Mm-hmm. But we didn't see no Phils. We didn't see no Koepkas out there. No, excuse me, at the Masters. We didn't see them there. We didn't see. Of course, we didn't see them at the Players, but at the Masters, we didn't see them. They weren't out there hitting the balls. We saw Scheffler. We saw Bryson. We saw Rory, but we didn't see no Koepkas. We didn't see no Phil. Phil's in the lounge, man, telling stories right now. What is he going to be on the range for?
Well, that's the thing. And like, look, I do love that there is some guaranteed money on Live. I think that is good for the athletes as well. So it's a bit of a weird balance for me. I think that there's a good thing with that. But
it pulls you one way and it pulls you back another, because you think for the younger kid coming out of college that played at Pepperdine University, that got his education paid for, but didn't really get any money. He's the guy that comes out of Pepperdine University or comes out of Florida State. And then all of a sudden Liv goes, hey, this guy's got he's got a big social media following. He's got kind of cool way about himself, and boom, they're going to give me $10 million or $20 million. Hey, I'll figure it out after that.
Tough. That's the thing, right? And it's, but yeah, we are seeing it for sure. And I think that you see that with anything, man. But when you're going back to Vladdy and all and look, you see it with every sport. It's not a knock on him. He's a great hitter. He will continue.
You're just bringing it to everybody's attention.
I'm just saying, maybe like you got to lay off the guy, because everybody goes this, 500 million.
Now they want.
Give him a minute, he's got like 15 years and then
no, they want it now.
I know.
They want it now.
You see the hecklers out there yelling like, "Hey, I wouldn't pay $10 for you."
Yeah, of course. Like, okay, the worst, man. Especially Toronto fans. Toronto fans, they're just they're shitting all over them.
Yeah, they can be the fickle, that's for sure. But anyways, I'm excited for this season, and we'll see what happens. 500 already. I hope they get a little bit better by the All-Star break, but
they will.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. They got it.
We just want to thank our great sponsors at Crystal Glass, your clear choice for all your glass needs. Call 310 Glass or go to crystalglass.ca today for all your glass needs.
Absolutely. Listen, and don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms on Busted Lip Podcast. You can also follow my counterpart, Mark Pavlich, at Mark Pavlich on all social media platforms. And of course, yours truly, myself, at TJ Harstein on all social media platforms. And once again, we want to thank Alan Belcher for calling in and having a chat with us. Always great to have a guest, even on Thursdays when it's not expected, but always a good time. Thank you very much, everybody, for listening. We'll see you soon. Ciao.